24 hours after the Suns scored 106 points in Utah, they fly to Denver, score 106 points again, and beat the Nuggets. 2 wins in a back-to-back, again in high elevation areas. A fantastic mini little road trip for the Phoenix Suns. What a win, Matthew! That was a quality win, man. Quality win right there.
Yes, it was. It was the first real battle to the end. Those tired legs, dude, the Suns were just hanging in there. I don't know if they really tried to let the Nuggets come back. Of course they didn't, but it was just the fact that they were just trying to hold them off as much as they can because they looked tired out there. They did. Well-earned win. I don't know what to say. This is just great, dude. I'm really living it up right now.
Well, Happy New Year. New year, same result as last night. We closed out 2020 with a win, and then we start 2021 with another win against a quality opponent. And to your point, Matthew, this team was tired. You could see it in the fourth quarter. They came out and initially, they put up 34 points in the first quarter and scored only 19 points come fourth quarter time in Denver, but it was enough to go and get the win. So again, Suns beat the Denver Nuggets on the road. Big win. We're now 5-1. The Suns are 5-1, dude.
5-1, dude. This is awesome because basically you had back-to-back games against really good opponents. And then honestly, this last game tonight was the hardest game they'll probably have to face for a while. And they got it done. I was going to be happy with 1-1 splitting these games, but to go 2-0 is astonishing for me.
Well, damn it, you took my one burning question right out of my mouth.
What's that?
Coming into this game and knowing that we had these 2 games on the road, is going 2-0 exceeding your expectations, meeting your expectations, or coming short of your expectations? And it sounds like even 1-1 exceeded your expectations, correct?
Yep, and this is exceeding it. So I'm very happy, dude. As all the Jamsters out there, we are very happy right now, right, Jamsters?
I know that the Suns faithful and the Suns Jam Session podcast faithful are probably happy. The chat's firing off. So if you're joining us, thank you for joining us. Make sure you hit subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. You can follow the pod at Suns Jam on both Instagram and Twitter. And you can hear the podcast on the Bright Side of the Sun podcast network. So make sure you subscribe, rate, and review there, where you not only get the Suns Jam Session podcast, but is the Fanning the Flames podcast as well. So we've got plenty to talk about tonight after a big victory in Denver, one that, we were up by 16 at one point. It felt like we were going to be cruising, and the Nuggets came back. So plenty to unwrap on this one. So I'm starting the new rough right, popping it open. Oh yeah. Let's talk about this win, man. Okay, so the Suns go up to Denver. They are now 5-1 on the season. The last time the Phoenix Suns started 5-1, do you know when that was, Matthew?
2009.
2000. In 2009, they started the season 4-1 and lost their 6th game of the season. So this is the first time that they've started the season 5-1 since Backcourt 2K. With even though they weren't all healthy at the time, Jason Kidd and Penny Hardaway, that team, and they actually began that season 7-1. Did you know that the best start in Suns history was 11-1, and that was by the 1980-1981 Phoenix Suns? Boom. You come after a win and you get a history lesson from the Jam Session. You got to love that, right?
Yeah. Well, automatically with you always pull out these little stats, dude. So it's a cute little thing you do, and I love it because I learn more and more about these Suns. Even though I feel like I know a lot, you know more, and I love to hear what you know. And plus, during a winning season, it just makes it even that much better, dude. To keep talking about the Suns. We were worried about doing this podcast when the Suns just weren't being that great, but this is like probably the best team right now playing in the West. I know that you have the Lakers, who are resting. You just don't know who's going to play. So besides that, the Suns are playing by far the best in the West. Whether that lasts all season, I don't know. But right now they are.
Absolutely. And, the Clippers are another team that's been playing pretty well, but I'm pretty sure they lost to Utah tonight. And that's actually who we have up next on the schedule. But we'll get to that. Suns win, a butt clincher, as somebody said in the chat here. a couple minutes ago, and it's very true. I mean, it was a game in which the Suns kind of prototypically had a close first quarter. They were up 34-32 exiting that first quarter, and then we saw what we typically do with the Suns. We saw a team that comes out and has that defensive intensity with the second unit, and they pushed that lead up to 8, and we kind of were going back and forth between 12 and 8 points the majority of the game until the third. But we'll get to that. A couple notes on this game. No Dario, what are your thoughts on him getting that extra rest day? That's a good call, right?
Yeah, I think he earned it really. The 3-game win streak where he was a part of the last 2 games, he earned that because he came in and didn't do too much the last game, but just to be that missing piece, it was kind of like, all right, we found it. But then also now that he's out of this game, I didn't feel too pressured that it would be something like the Suns would be missing too much because we've seen so much for so many players. And Kaminsky was that guy tonight to fill those minutes. I was wondering who it would be, but it was Kaminsky. He played some decent minutes, and I think that it wasn't too much, too little. He basically just came in, did what he had to do, got some good offensive rebounds for second chance points for the Suns. So he helped the way he could. But yeah, Saric, I think he deserved the rest. These back-to-backs, it's not like resting LeBron. You're actually resting Saric, but still he's coming off an injury. So you got to give him the rest, right?
Absolutely. And I think that, it's one of those things going into the game, knowing that they have Jokic, knowing that they have Paul Millsap, and they've got that big front line, like every team does. I was a little concerned, knowing that depth was going to be negated without Saric and without Jalen Smith. That leaves Kaminsky and Damian Jones. I was like, okay, if this becomes one of those free throw foul games, it's going to be frustrating. But Kaminsky gave you quality minutes, 10 minutes, 3 points, 4 total rebounds. And like you said, 3 of those were offensive rebounds. And it's big to have him come in and actually be a rebounding presence. I don't think that's something we've ever been used to with Big Frank. Is he normally comes in, shoots about 3 3-pointers, and goes back down to the bench. But as DW1707 says in the chat, Frank filled in nicely. He's very happy with our bigs tonight, and so was I. And that was kind of my first takeaway as I began watching this game, was just seeing how they were going to navigate the 5. But this is okay. I feel like every podcast starts with us talking about Deandre Ayton, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to have to make this like an official segment. So here, how about we do this?
Ayton Watch 2021.
On this edition of the Deandre Ayton Watch, in a season where everybody's being overly critical about everything he does through the first 5 games, I'm happy to report that he had a fucking awesome game, man. 22, what did he end up with? 22 and 11. Mm-hmm. 2 blocks, only 3 personal fouls, but I felt like his fouls were good fouls, a couple offensive rebounds, 10 for 13 from the field. Maybe everyone can settle down with Deandre Ayton. Again, this is the versatility of this team, right? On one night, you're having Devin Booker close out the game, and he's carrying the team with 25 points. And then the next game, it's going to be Deandre Ayton. And so what are your thoughts on the performance of DA tonight?
Well, I love it, man. I mean, you can see it in the chat, dude. I love DA's game. And every time we come into this podcast, it's like, what is up with DA? Where's DA at? We need him to step up. Tonight he did. And he was super tired towards the end. I think the first half he played very, very well. He had 11 points or 13 points going into the halftime. But besides that, he was very efficient, dude. He was just playing his game. And he was able to be decisive in this game. I think against Jokic, for some reason, he does very well against the Nuggets. That's his team. EJ was saying that every player has their favorite team. This is DeAndre Ayton's favorite team. It's the Nuggets. So now that we know that, we don't have to worry about the matchup with Jokic because he can actually face him one-on-one. And he was taking his time in this game. On the offensive end, he really was with the ball. And I love that, dude. It's like, you don't have to rush anything if you don't want. If you have the ball against Jokic or anybody on the block, take your time and get the shot off. That's what he did. He had those turnaround jump shots that were going in. He was just really crashing the glass, making a difference, tipping the ball out. He was doing everything possible, even though we knew that he was tired. He played, how many minutes did he play? I think he played plus 30, right? 35 or 38 minutes.
38 minutes for him.
On a back-to-back, dude, that is nuts, dude, right? I mean, this is his game. This is the DeAndre Ayton game. It was Javon Carter's game last game. Tonight, just kidding. Tonight is DeAndre Ayton's game.
Yeah, and I think that let's see who said here in the chat. Cody A. Phillips. He was excellent. He's not going to be a dunking machine, but that's okay. We've been saying it for quite some time.
Yeah.
DA is not going to be the guy who's going to get you the highlight dunks on everybody. He's more of a finesse guy. He likes to kind of take his time around the basket, and we know that it's frustrating. But at the same time, he can be effective in doing so. And tonight he was effective. And it's always fun to see him put up these performances against Nikola Jokic, because Nikola Jokic is a potential MVP, somebody who's finished in the MVP voting. He's technically sound. He's a complete player. And to have DA really go at him and put Nikolai in foul trouble is impressive to see. Now, granted, it was a team effort to get him in foul trouble, but at the same time, it's the constant monitoring of DA that he had to do that really frustrated him and got him into foul trouble, to the point where by the third quarter, I really feel like the refs were upset with themselves because they gave him 5, because all of a sudden every call started going towards Denver's way, to the point where in the fourth quarter, Jokic knew it and he could get away with whatever he wanted. Had a couple over the backs that weren't called. And even though he's got that, slim fit new body, it still made me mad.
Yeah, he was looking beautiful, right? Well, he came into the fourth quarter rested, so I was kind of worried after he got those 5 fouls. It was nice, but I'm like, okay, he's going to come in rested, dude, especially having 2 days off before from Denver. I just think that added to it, to where I thought he was going to come in like he did, facilitated the ball. Jamal Murray got hot. The Denver Nuggets, they made the run they were supposed to, and the Suns held them off. But besides that, Jokic, he looks good, dude. It's just his team's a little short right now. They're trying to find their ways. I don't know what's going on, why they can't, get a couple wins. I'm glad it's not tonight, but I think they'll get on track soon. Michael Porter Jr. was out, but besides that, I think Jokic did what he could in this game, but the 5 fouls really killed him, and I'm glad it did. I'm glad it was one guy from the other team getting 5 fouls in the third, and not from our team.
Yeah, but he still finished with 17, 11 assists, and 9 rebounds. I mean, he's just so technically sound. I know that every time Denver comes to town, I typically, for some reason, end up at the game. I think I've seen Jokic play like every time he's been in Phoenix for the past 4 years. And between him and Jamal Murray, they're just both killers, and they're Suns killers. Jamal Murray, I tweeted out earlier, averages 20.3 points per game against the Suns, which is the highest against any opponent. The closest one behind that, I think, is 19.8. It's like the Pistons that he's played 5 games against. So these are two guys who, if it gets close and it's late, typically we lose those games. I've seen it in person multiple times. And tonight that didn't happen because we have the point god. Last night it's Booker hitting a couple big threes, and then Crowder, who had an off night tonight, hitting a big 3. And then it was CP3 just running the show at the end. And how nice is it to have 2 different players who at the end of a game can take the ball in their hands and facilitate a win?
Yeah, it's like, who's going to make the big shot? Who's the guy that's going to knock down a couple shots? It was Chris Paul. It made me think today, I don't know if anybody's thought about this yet, but what is the MVP case for Chris Paul really for the Suns team? It's kind of like the Steve Nash effect. He's coming in, we're 5-1. Booker's not putting up stats like we thought he would right away, but we're getting wins. He's closing out the game. He's facilitating the ball to where he knows where to find the guy with the hot hand. It wasn't Booker. Booker made some bad turnovers in the end. But Chris Paul, he's the guy that can get to his spot. And I think he slowed things down in the end when Jamal Murray and the rest of the Nuggets team were hitting shots and just found his shot. And he did. And him using Deandre Ayton too as a pick and roll, but kind of like a prop in the middle to get to where he needs to go for his shot. That's the way he is. And I think those 2-point shots were clutch from Chris Paul. I don't know if Booker just didn't have it going, but it's fine because, with the back-to-back, you have those excuses. You have the tired legs. It just wasn't going in. It's not going to be his night every night. Booker had 2 great games to close out for the Suns the last 2 games. You know what I mean? He ended those games great. This time, it was Chris Paul. And it was like, who am I going to count on tonight for the Suns? And it was Chris Paul this night. And I think he's earned it, dude. I think he's earned to be not MVP of the league, but for the Suns right now, besides Mikal Bridges, I mean, he's been the most valuable, I think.
Without a doubt. I mean, he's consistently taken this team under his wing and showing them ways to win. And this is what Devin Booker's always had a challenge with in the past. Eddie was mentioning it on the broadcast, and I thought he said it very eloquently when he says it's hard to have a pristine theater and have a complete game in which is just pure domination. And for the first 2.5 quarters, that's what this game was pure domination by the Phoenix Suns. They were kind of doing whatever they wanted, shoot the 3 ball at will. Booker was playing a little shoddy, but Ayton was picking him up. CP3 was having a solid game. But at the same time, in the past, Devin Booker in the fourth quarter would have to put, and I've said it before on this pod, put the Suns cross on his shoulder and try to take us across the finish line. And now with CP3 here, he's managing some of those minutes. He's taking that weight off Booker. Booker's going to be more effective like he was last night in Utah and getting open for wide open shots. And tonight, Booker went down a couple times and had 2 of his 8 turnovers in the fourth quarter and is kind of CP3's like, listen, I'll handle the ball from here on out, Book. I got this. And to your point, the way that he was utilizing Deandre Ayton, who had been effective all night, to create havoc on screens and to navigate the paint was absolutely huge for the Suns. One thing I noticed in this game was the fact that the Suns were doing a really good job of creating mismatches, utilizing screens. And it was interesting because it's not something I've really seen them do very effectively thus far this year. They'll sit there and they'll try a high screen and roll, and then a guy will fight through the screen, and then you don't really get that mismatch, where I feel like that's all the NBA playoffs are these days, is just screen and roll switch until you get a matchup you want, then exploit that matchup. The Suns were doing that at the beginning of this game, and it made me think, they lost Jeremy Grant, who's a really good wing defender, and not having Michael Porter Jr. there, although he's not necessarily known as a great defender, is somebody who has length, and the Suns took advantage of that. And, kudos to Monty Williams and the way he coaches this team and has them prepared to go up into Utah, a playoff team, and up into Denver the next night, a team that went to the Western Conference Finals last year, and take advantages of weaknesses that him and his coaching staff have identified, and then having the ability to have Chris Paul execute those coaching adjustments.
Yep. Well, you know what? I want to hit on the Devin Booker turning over. Sorry, you went over a few things there, but like Devin Booker, those turnovers in the end. The thing is, I don't know what it is this year with his passing. It is pretty bad. I don't know. He doesn't trust his passing, but yet he'll force the worst kind of passes, which I've never seen before. I think last year he kind of came to a standstill of being the playmaker, I think, for the Suns. But right now he's just not finding his way. But sorry, I lost my train of thought a little bit in there. But yeah, the screen and stuff, the Suns are just moving the ball, dude. The Suns are honestly, they're doing those screens, but they're getting the wide open looks. What I like the most, even if they're not wide open, these players are still shooting the shots in the face of the defender. I think Mikal Bridges is really comfortable right now, shooting it with a hand in his face. This is something that he wanted to do before, which I don't mind him, taking it to the rim if he can. But I mean, he's shooting it confidently. And I think him and Langston Galloway, who has the ability to really draw a foul on the three anytime he shoots it, anytime he wants. I know he does it like once a game, it seems like now. That's something that's different too for the Suns. But yeah, the screens and stuff, I think the Suns are actually they're moving the ball, and I think maybe some teams might be surprised too by the Suns. And I think that they see it on film, they watch this team, they know they're 4-1, but when you play against it, it's just totally different. You don't expect it. And I think a lot of teams are just taken by the surprise right now by the Suns and how well they're moving the ball.
Yeah, and again, it's how many total assists? 24 total assists for the Suns on 37 made shots. And if you look at the first half, I mean, they were so efficient in that first half because the first quarter alone, they had 12 total makes and they had 10 assists. So they ended the game with 24. So they really, that's kind of the tale of two games, if you will, if you look at this game against the Nuggets, is the fact that in the first half, they had the ability to move the ball, get the guys the open shots, and then knock those down. In the second half, there was a lot more choppiness. I really feel like Denver's second team did a good job of just pestering the Suns. And it's one thing that I know it's the legs. I know that Javon Carter and Cameron Payne were tired. The majority of this team is tired. You're going up to Utah in elevation, and you're going to Denver, more elevation. Yeah. So by the middle of the third on, they're gassed, and you can see it because you didn't see a lot of that full court press. Whereas the Denver Nuggets have been off for the past 3 days, and they live in Denver, so they're used to the elevation, and they were starting to do that to the Suns and really started to disrupt them. I mean, there's guys I've never even heard of who came in and were causing problems. Hartenstein, like who's this guy? Hartenstein. It was like Frankenstein out there. I mean, I was like, who is this guy? And then you also had JaMychal Green out there knocking down 3-pointers and creating havoc and getting his hands and everything. And, Harris was a pest as well. I mean, do you think that the Suns actively didn't try to do any full court press, or they were just too tired to try?
They just look tired. And I think like even seeing the face of Chris Paul, usually he's one to like trying to argue or try to get his team going and stuff. But you can just tell the look on his face walking back to the bench, he was exhausted. And I think Hartenstein, whenever he came in to really mow his way over, I feel like he was trying to take on Ayton, like this is easy and stuff. He did for a while there, he really did, but Ayton had to find himself and just get back to business, and he did, and he finished out a little bit more strong than Hartenstein until Jokic came back. Those were good 7 minutes by Hartenstein. I think he became like, it was like his 20 seconds of fame basically for that guy when he came off the bench. I think he had 7 points, right? Yeah, 7 points for that guy. 7 points. Yeah, it was pretty cool to see.
Should we give him the Jack Taylor Award?
I was just gonna say, is he the Jack Taylor Award winner?
Here's our Jack Taylor Award.
The Jack Taylor Award for the guy who comes out of nowhere and scores a shit ton of points on you.
Because everybody remembers Jack Taylor, the guy who scored the most amount of points in NCAA history, right? That was Hartenstein tonight, a guy who comes out of nowhere and is running the pick and roll better than Ayton does sometimes. And you're like, what's going on here? Here's a point that Coda Kid brought up in the chat, and it definitely needs to be addressed. He's like, I'm going to be that guy. We blew a 16-point game. And that's very valid. And I understand that. And trust me, as we're all watching it, it's frustrating to watch the turnovers. I mean, okay, so here's kind of a series of events that I put down in my notes. Okay, so the Suns, Jokic with 8:31 left in the third, and the Suns are up 8. Jokic gets his fourth foul, goes to the bench. During that time frame, the Suns run a lineup of Campaign, Booker, Bridges, Cam, and Jay Crowder while he's gone, because you don't have that big presence. But that's when Hartenstein comes in and starts to play very well. And then when the Suns are up 13, Jokic comes back with 2:30 left in the third, and he fouls Kaminsky on his first offensive possession. But from that point on, the Suns, 3 offensive fouls and 2 turnovers to end the third quarter. And still at that point, they're up 9. But then you go into that fourth quarter, and they just weren't getting shots up. And it's because they were turning the ball over, they were playing sloppy, and they were tired. And then you have to realize that fact. And this isn't this isn't the Cleveland Cavaliers or the Detroit Pistons you're playing. Yeah. This is the Denver Nuggets, who were in the Western Conference Finals last year. You have Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, who know how to finish out games. That's how you get to the Western Conference Finals. They know how to play the refs. They know how to, run their sets and be effective. And that's exactly what they did in that fourth, Matthew.
Yeah, the team, the Suns, they actually played outside their offense a little bit. I think Booker really tried to take it into his own hands in the end. But even in the fourth, dude, those turnovers were really bad. The 1-3 he made where he was like fumbling the ball out of bounds, and the defender almost had it, but then Booker got it back and hit a big 3. But besides that, Booker, he had, even in the Pelicans game, there are just times where the other defender knows what to do and poke the ball away. And he's had huge turnovers. And I don't know if it's going to end or what's going to happen, but you see it sometimes with some players. But it's just been a consistent thing for Booker in the end of games, so where I just don't trust him too much. I mean, if he's wide open for 3, but if he's handling the ball in the end, I don't trust it. But Chris Paul, I do. But besides that, dude, there's just something they have to find at the end of these games where it's a 16-point lead, of course, and every team goes on runs. But when the other team's going on a run, you're tired. I think, like I said before, there's a little bit more of an excuse you can have just because you are tired. But closing this game out, I think, helps the Suns in the long run. I think just these close games, winning it, like the ones we would lose last year, these are the ones that we will win this year, I think, because we have the correct core, especially if it's not a back-to-back. It'll be a more easy win, and we have guys that can make big shots. So all of that, I mean, it's just it comes down to really, I think, just the Suns team going to the next level, really, with this win. I know it looked sloppy and stuff, but
a win's a win.
They help this team, I think, in the future.
Absolutely. A win's a win. And you know what? You're not going to win every one of these games. There's going to be a bad call. There's going to be a bad possession. And you know what? I mean, that's how razor thin wins and losses are in the NBA. We know that. We're Suns fans. We're always on the other side of that with, especially these past couple of years. This isn't 3 years ago where the Suns were getting blown out in every game. And, by halftime, you were checking out the Ohio State Clemson game. This is a team that in the past couple of years have been so close, and the margins are so razor thin. And I remember the Denver games, the 2 games I think I saw them play the past year. It was Jamal Murray hitting big shots as the time expired, or Devin Booker taking a 3. I think there was one where he got blocked. I mean, against the Nuggets last year for a corner 3 that would have won the game. I mean, so it's always so close, but we're coming out the other side because of the leadership and the position that we put ourselves in. This team came out hot from downtown. They went 7 for 11 in the first quarter from the 3-point. They ended 13 of 35, so they fell off as normal, but shot 35 attempts and 37% from downtown. That's big. The free throw percentage, 19 for 21, absolutely huge. And what's interesting is Devin Booker's free throw percentage. Coming into the game, he was shooting 70% on the season, and he went 1 for 2 tonight, and that one was in the fourth quarter. Something's a little bit off for Booker this year, and I really think that it's him learning to play with this team. I mean, what else could it be?
I mean, we harped on the Jenner thing a little bit, but besides that, there is something off. I mean, even his free throws were so automatic, but he's just missing them more consistent than ever. Him drawing fouls is an art he created, I feel like, last year. He's lost that too. I think just the energy he has at the end of games, he still has a thing that I kind of don't like too. I'm not like bringing him down or anything. I'm just saying where he wants to go one-on-one with like Jamal Murray and try to end the game, but then you see, like we talked about, the turnovers. That's the thing he still has, and I wish he won it. I wish he would defer to another player too, especially if he doesn't have it going that night. I mean, he started out really slow, but then he ended up with 22 points, right? Yeah, 22 points. He kind of turned it on there, but you can tell he was kind of losing it. But there's just something that is off. We've noticed it since game one. It's like a little bit of the attitude, a little bit of something that we just know it's different. I don't know if it's bad or good or what. I'm not saying anything's his fault or anything like that, but we just know there's a difference. And if we keep talking about it, just like we do Deandre Ayton, we want him to show up. We just notice these things with the players. And I don't know if it's something that he just needs to get used to with the offense. Maybe it is, but it should be an easier offense for him to maneuver, right? I mean, to get those wide open shots that you thought he would have going into the season, I feel like that he's getting that, but there's just something different with him.
No, completely agree. And he is getting those wide open shots. He's not knocking all of them down. I mean, again, this isn't trashing Booker in any way, shape, or form. He carried us to a victory last night against Utah, but it's clear that something's a little bit off. Coda Kid says it's that Jenner curse. You know, maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But at the same time, you know, I think a lot of it, though, is just kind of the disrespect. I think he gets in his own head sometimes because
I think so too.
He's having a hard time getting calls. I mean, there was 2 or 3 times where he took the ball to the rim in this game and is blatantly fouled. Okay, not blatantly, but I mean, it'd be a hardened call. Luka Doncic, I mean, they would have called it like a technical on the guy for looking at him that long, and he's not getting those calls, you know, and he gets pissed off and he hits a couple threes, and like, I love pissed off Booker. Like, when he's not getting that respect, he goes into the zone, and it could be very dangerous for the opposition when he gets into that zone. But, you know, you look at one of the primary weaknesses of the Suns this year, and thankfully there's not that many, and one of them is getting to the free throw line. And it's not for lack of trying. They just don't get the respect or the calls from the refs, and there's nothing you can really do about that. And again, I think that Booker, by the time he finally does get to the free throw line, again, this is a guy who's consistently taking it down the lane, putting himself in hard situations, getting bumped, getting fouled, and he only shot 2 free throw attempts in this game. He's not getting the respect that he should.
Yeah, but it's so weird. It's like, what does Luka, what does Harden do? What do they do different? I know Harden is a winner. Harden has always been a winner, so maybe that's it. Luka, he's new to the league, so he gets, but even Trae Young, man, that guy goes to the line 50 times a game.
But look how much they bitch.
Yeah, they do, but Booker does too. Booker
it's a
does
different kind of bitching.
You think so?
Booker's like an asshole when he bitches. He'll yell at him, and he'll
does this a lot to review.
He does the review thing, but he also points at him and gives him kind of the like, what the fuck look
to the referees.
Yeah, to the referees. Where if you watch Luka and Trae Young are constantly, their hands are always in the air. They're just always in the air. They'll shoot it, make it. No one will be around. They like look at the ref, put their hands in the air very visually, and I feel like it's almost like Booker attacks the ref versus, you know, Luka and James Harden and Zion got some of those calls, and they it's just the body language in which they approach the referees. You watch Luka before the game; he's going around like high-fiving all the refs. You know, it's a different way that and that's because that's the kind of guy Booker is. He's got that killer instinct. He's got the Jordan kind of gene, if you will, the Kobe gene, the, you know, I demand respect gene, and he doesn't know how to effectively communicate that to referees. So rather than getting a foul call, he gets a T. And he got close tonight. I almost put in my notes like, here we go. Here comes another T. And like, he just
was coming too.
Yeah. So I mean, that's what happens to him, and I think that's effect, and it's going to improve because Booker with Chris Paul there is going to teach him like, hey man, you got to play these refs different, man. Chris Paul is now going through. This is a 6th game next to him, dribbling the ball up the court with him by his side, and he's going to teach him how to do it.
I think so too. But Booker, I think he has to draw those fouls though. It's like a mix. It's a mix of no respect. It's a mix of you're just not putting your body, putting your arms or the shot in the way of the defender to get the foul. I really think he had it last year and he lost it. I don't know what it is. He doesn't do the same thing as he did when he was going to the lane. So I just think there's a mixture of that, dude. I'm not blaming the refs or blaming Book. I think it's just right in the middle, man. And I think this team will get respect of obviously, but the free throw thing is crazy. I think the free throw thing with Booker, how he's not getting as many calls as like a Trae Young would, but there's just an art to it. And I think he just lost it right now. I think he needs to get it back. And like we were talking about, just him finding his way in the offense, maybe it'll ease him way into a few of those fouls.
Well, it's definitely an area of opportunity for Devin Booker. And again, on a team that's now 5-1, and as a lot of people are saying in the chat, is one of the best teams. I think is the best team in the NBA right now because of their win total. So again, if you are watching, thank you ever so much. Make sure that you subscribe to the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button and subscribe, and follow us on Twitter at Suns Jam. And then make sure you listen on the Bright Side of the Sun podcast network and visit Bright Side of the Sun, because that's where both Matthew and I publish our writing there. So we appreciate everyone who's hanging out with us today. One thing I also wanted to talk about with this team, now we've given up 103 points. Coming into this game, we had the best defense in the league in a points per game standpoint. We gave up 97.8 points per game, number one in the league. Number one in negating assists. We have only been given up 18.4 a game. Number one in 3 points made per game, 7.8. 3-point percentage and 3-point attempts, number 2 in the league. Field goals, number 2 in the league. I mean, you look at this team defensively, and it's really what's defining this team. It's really what's keeping, I wouldn't say keeping us in games, but having the ability to shut down the opposition is absolutely paramount in the NBA. And although it's early, it's a great thing to see, Matthew.
It is, and it starts in the second quarter, right? I mean, I feel like every time they come out in the second, the defense is turned on, the threes are going up, the team rebounding, everything comes together in the second quarter. It's like that push towards the halftime to where they can end the quarter well, and that just really creates for the second half. I think that's something last year they missed a lot, and I think just the defense in a whole is what they missed a lot the last 10 years, but now you're seeing it not so much in the first, which is fine. I feel like a lot of teams are just going out there to feel out the game, and then once the second quarter hits, adjustments are made. Monty knows, this is when we got to turn on the defense. Chris Paul's the leader. You have Ayton, who's always, I feel like, consistent in the second half, but even in the second quarter too as well. You're seeing a lot of just the same thing every game, man. I think we just start out great in the first, and then the second quarter, everything comes together, and then they try to finish. Tonight, they gave up the 16-point lead, but besides that, I mean, you're seeing the same trend with this team, which is just the winning effort from the second quarter on. I mean, I might be wrong, but I mean, even if they get tired at the end of this game, it's like they still have a purpose to win the game, and they're still close with a really good team. So, I mean, they're all this points to great success, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, Suns win. I mean, that's the end goal, right? The most vital statistic is what you put up in the win column and what you put up in the loss column, and they're 5-1 now. And you're absolutely right. That second team defense, essentially, it happens every game. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier, when the second quarter starts, you got the campaigns out there and the different lineups, Jay Crowder and, obviously Mikal, the Warden Bridges. How they make it hard for the opposition is just fun to watch. Every shot is contested. The passing lanes are contested. They have the ability to cut off guys driving to the basket and just kind of create havoc. And what happens is it demoralizes the team. I mean, there was one point in that second quarter where Denver truly looked demoralized. I really felt like after a couple threes and a couple shitty possessions, they did not look like they were happy at all, and that they almost wanted to wave the white flag. Now, granted, this is a really good team that went to the Western Conference Finals, and they're going to find a way to claw back in, especially when you got Jokic and Murray. But in the second quarter, that's really been the tone setter. And I feel like so many times in the past, and forgive me if you're new to the Suns fan base and we reference the past because it's been a shitty one for a long time. But like last year, I remember when Booker would come off the court and we'd still have Rubio out there and vice versa. If those two guys weren't on the court, the Suns weren't as effective offensively, and the defense would be gone. And we couldn't play defense. And that's where you'd lose games, is that the Suns will be up 3 points coming out of the first quarter, and they're down 10 by the time Booker comes back. And now it's the script has been flipped, if you will.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah, it is. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, I thought you were keeping going. Sorry, I'm a little off tonight. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's
probably you probably had a few too many of these guys on New Year's. It's okay. Happy New Year, everybody. Happy 2021.
Yeah, but the flip is script, man. I mean, oh my God, I can't even say that.
The flip is script.
Just cut me off. Just cut me off. No, what I was going to say is, and the thing is flipped. The script is flipped, basically because I think that you just have a situation where we actually have a coach for the second year. We have the installment of like a defense and an offensive trend that's going to last more than 2 years. I think that's a big part of it. And MVP Chris Paul coming in here to lead the charge. But besides that, dude, I just think we have the bench that is producing. And tonight it was like when Sarge was gone, Galloway came back tonight too. Galloway came back huge. He had 9 points. Cam Johnson started out great in the second quarter. They come in and they just give us that lift in the second quarter where they can knock down threes and get this team a lead. And yeah, the Nuggets were out of it. They were waving the white flag until Jokic got knocked out of the game, and then the bench came in and helped them out, which made no sense. But besides that, like, they just looked like they were done. There was times when Murray was just like stomping around the court because he was so upset with how he was playing. I was like, this is okay. This is a blowout. I was actually writing the recap for today, and I was writing the Suns blowout, the Denver Nuggets. So it is my fault that the Denver Nuggets came back. But besides that, man, I think that they handled themselves okay in the end.
Absolutely. I mean, again, they a 106-103 victory over a really good team pushes them to 5-1 overall, 3-1 on the road, and now they're coming home. A couple other guys that we haven't really talked about. Jay Crowder had an off game. Okay, only 4 points, 0 for 4 from downtown, 1 for 5 from 3, and we've talked about it before. That's what you're going to get from him. Okay, you're going to get those games where it feels like he can't miss, and you're going to get games where it feels like he can't hit. So, it's okay. Again, there's so much depth to this team that they can keep firing from multiple places. Like you said, Langston Galloway, man. Langston comes in, only he plays in 7 minutes, but has 9 points. Like, that's beyond point a minute. That's the kind of production that you want. Javon Carter comes in, doesn't put up any points, has 2 assists, 2 rebounds, but it's a plus 12. You know, Kaminsky, 10 minutes, plus 14. Cam Johnson, 9 points, 3 for 8 from downtown, a plus 14. 4 rebounds, 2 assists for Cam. You know, again, he's somebody who I feel like he can give you 20 points and it's effective, and he can give you 10 points and it's effective. And the way that he can play and defend, again, going back to that Suns defense, due to the length of this team, due to the depth and their strength at the wing position, it makes him very versatile. It's hard for Jamal Murray when he does try to get into a switch. The guy who's switching on him isn't going to be Ty Jerome this year, man. It's going to be Cam Johnson or Langston Galloway or especially like Javon Carter, who's going to get right up in his shorts. I mean, it's really tough on the opposition to get mismatches that are going to benefit them, and that's a credit to the way that, one, Monty coaches this team, but two, the way that James Jones has built this roster. And we're surviving right now with some of our bigs who are out. You know, again, no Dario, no Jalen Smith, but the guys who are filling in those minutes are giving you quality minutes, and that's the key. You know, the theme of this win is quality. This is a quality win. This isn't going into having the Pelicans come to town and beating the shit out of them. You know, that's a fun win. It's enjoyable when you crush somebody by 25 points like we did Zion and the Pellies last Tuesday. Yeah. But when you go into Denver on the second night of a back-to-back and you win a game that you were up 16 and you lost the lead, but you still grind it out and win, that is quality, my friend.
Yeah, are the Suns, are they like Kansas City, like the Kansas City Chiefs, where we're just messing around with these teams now, that we're just that good to where we're going to win 17-14 against the Jets or whatever? You know what I mean? Like, is that the way the Suns team is now? But, dude, with Crowder, like, okay, so I love him in the starting lineup, so just leave him. But I wouldn't even know that he was having a bad game. Javon Carter is probably the only one I noticed that doesn't have a good game. Like, if he's just missing shots, but he still had the 2 assists, 2 rebounds, which is fine. But a lot of these players, if they're not putting up stats, I don't know. Like, I can't tell how bad they're doing unless I look at the box score. Just because they're doing so much more, that's not going to show up on the box score. That's the difference with this team. And I think the only thing that sucks is when I do see like a Devin Booker turning the ball over. That's the only thing I see from this team. I'm like, come on, like, get it together. And then DeAndre's play sometimes is inconsistent. But besides that, you'll never know that these players off the bench are having a bad game, because usually they come in, and if one of them's not hitting, the other one will, but they'll also contribute in other ways. That is just the difference. That's why we're winning these games, is because they're making the small little efforts that when they're not making their shots and they're only getting 4 points from Crowder, he's going to do everything else too to lead this team to a win.
Absolutely. It's leadership. It's veteranship. It's those things that you didn't have in the past. It's not having Ty Jerome and Elia Kobo and these guys who are coming in and trying to figure out who they are as NBA players versus guys who are true veterans and even on their off nights are going to find ways to contribute. You know, Crowder, 4 personal fouls, you know, a couple free throws. I mean, but he still at the same time found a way to contribute to this team and lock up the opposition. I like what ACU Crack says, find Galloway more minutes. You know, it's hard at the guard position right now. You know, Etuan Moore's not even playing. You know, Chris J says in the chat, I want to see Moore hit the floor. I'm with you, but you know what? The combination's working right now for Monty, and I'm glad that he's not having to go through the motions and try to figure out what his rotation is. He's set on his rotation. We have a starting five. He knows who's coming in first off the bench in each individual position, and it's been working for the Suns. And there were so many times last year where I felt like Monty was searching to find that right combination that would get him a win, and it's winning. It's working right now, right out of the gate, 5-1, and we could technically be 6-0, man.
I know, but the rotations are crazy because you would think like, okay, maybe Moore would get some minutes tonight just because it's a back-to-back. No, he's sticking with these guys. He's running DeAndre out there back-to-back games with 35 plus minutes. So that's just the way he's going to do it. He's like a Mike D'Antoni again, where he's just going to play the same guys to get these wins. I think once things settle down, maybe in the schedule, we play some easier teams and some blowouts, you'll see more of these players. But for now, play the best player, play the best guys, play Galloway more if you can. But like you said, the backup point depth with Cameron Payne playing as consistent as he is, it's hard to replace him. And then I don't know. I am just so confused with when Galloway is on the court for 7 minutes. I feel like he's on the court almost the whole game just because he brings that much in the little 7 minutes where I feel like he's playing like 15 minutes already. So I don't even think about that until someone brings that up.
No, I completely agree. It's because he's so effective in the time that he's provided that it feels like he's been out there for a couple quarters and he only got a few minutes. So again, it just showcases the depth of this team. So this is a new segment we have. I haven't made an audio drop for it yet, but essentially it's the jam ball of the game. It's our version of the player of the game. If anybody in the chat can think of a better name, I'm all open to it. But Matthew, as you look at this win, 106, 103 against Denver, who gets the jam ball of the game for you?
Deandre Ayton. It's his coming out game. Like he basically, he took the team not on his shoulders, but he was just very much to where he played his game, which was very simple. And that's all we ask. He's doing the simple things with his shot, just doing as much as he can around the boards, around the rim. And I think that this is what he needed to really kind of get on better track, even though he's been playing okay, but we give him a hard time. I just think that this will give him on a better track for the future of the season. I think this will be the start of something to where I know he's not going to have this game every night, but we can look back and be like, yeah, he got the 22-11 game. That's what we expect, but it's not going to come every night. But when it does, especially when the rest of the team doesn't do as well, I would give him the jam ball game the jam ball of the game.
Jam ball of the game. I don't know. I like what Benjamin Schindel said in the chat. He's like, Jaman of the game.
Man. Jawana man?
Jawana man? Really bad movie. I really want to give it to DA. I mean, and you look in the chat, Coda Kid, DA. Alex Delgado, DA was balling day. You got a bunch of people agreeing with you. And I really want to give it to him because of the effort he put in and how he's crucified consistently by Suns fans. I mean, we're so critical of him to the point where I've made that drop so we can actually talk about, the Ayton Watch 2021 because it's what everybody cares about right now. When you ask everybody before the season began, with Chris Paul coming to town, who needs to be the X factor for this team to be successful? And almost to a T, everybody said that it needed to be Deandre Ayton. So I had to have him come out and put up 22 and 11 against Jokic, against a big front line to be fantastic on defense. He had an unbelievable defensive game, going straight up, deterring shots, blocking shots, doing everything that DA is supposed to do. He should get the jam ball of the game. And I'm going to really fortify that by saying that's a great pick, Matthew. I'm going to go with Chris Paul just because he closed the game. Because no matter all of the efforts that DA put forth and some of the efforts that Devin Booker put forth that weren't necessarily successful, Chris Paul had to close this game, and he did. He took that ball in his hands. He went down. He hit the clutch shot. He got he hit the free throws at the end. He did everything necessary to push this team to a victory when it looked like we were on the brink of collapsing. And so for that reason, he is my jam ball of the game. I've really got to come up with a better name for that. So I'm relying on you, Jamster listeners. Come up with a better name for that.
What a great pick. Especially like I didn't even pick him, but I was talking about him having an MVP case after this game, and I didn't pick him as the player of the game. It's maybe because I want to give some love to DA, so I had to get it out there.
He's earned it. He definitely earned it. Yeah. I mean, so you can't argue with that. All right, so up next for the Suns, they are going to be playing the Los Angeles Clippers at home, and that's going to be on Sunday night, and I believe it's 6:00, right, Matthew?
Yeah, 6:00.
I'll double check because I'll just pull up my little thing here. Yep, 6 p.m. Fox Sports Arizona on January 3rd. obviously another big game. These are three tough opponents back to back to back. You get three Western Conference playoff teams back to back to back. And this is a team that, with Kawhi Leonard, with Paul George, as I affectionately call them, Leo and Gio, Leonard and George. I know you guys saw what I did there. I don't know if you like it, but that's okay. But it's going to be a team that is going to be hungry and ready for victory. They lost tonight to the team that we beat last night. They lost to Utah 106-100. They're now 4-2, and they probably want to come in and do what Utah did. Utah lost to us, so what did they do? They regrouped and they came out and they beat the Clippers tonight. The Clippers are going to look to come to Phoenix on Sunday and do the same. So what are your initial thoughts as we look forward to the Suns potentially going 6-1 on Sunday?
Oh, man, it's a fun team. It's going to be a fun game. I think it's a really good matchup for the Suns to see where they are in the West. They're 4-2, we're 5-1. So, but I feel like the Clippers are going to be one of those teams, of course, in the end. They're going to be maybe even in the championship, the NBA Finals. They'll probably be that team from the West this year just because of what happened last year. They can't have any letdowns this year. So far, I don't think anybody's really rested on their team, which is fine. It's early, but they can't afford that. I think they see the Suns as a team as like, hey, we should go in there. We should handle business. I know they're 5-1, but we know we're better. And the Suns are looking at it like, hey, we're 5-1. I know they think they're better, but we're going to go in there and handle business. So they're both thinking the same thing. They both think they're the best team in the West. And we'll see, man. I am excited for this game. This is the first game after this back-to-back to where these games against Utah and the Jazz, they split. It's good. It's fine because they're going to be tired. But this one, I expect it to be close. If it comes to a close game, the Suns lose, that's fine. But besides that, I really think the Suns think they can have the upper hand against the Clippers, don't you?
Well, yeah, this is going to be a pretty fun little battle that the Suns are going to have against the Clippers because, like you said, both of these teams now know that they're the elite of the West thus far this season. This is the top. These are the games where we talk about when you play teams like the Kings and the Pistons and the Cavs and the Bulls. Those are teams you're supposed to beat, so beat them. The Pelicans beat them. But when you go against the Clippers and the Nuggets and the Jazz and you come out the other side and you win, you're elite. And you know what? We just went 2-0 on the road in elevation against two really good teams, and we're coming home with 2 victories in our pocket. And don't you think that Monty Williams and Chris Paul is going to let anybody on this team think that we've accomplished shit as of yet? Because we haven't. And this is going to be a fun early season battle against the Clip Show. I doubt they rest anybody. I haven't looked at the injury report yet to see who's in and who's out. But it's a team that is definitely something to be afraid of. We talked about in the offseason, they didn't necessarily make a ton of moves. They lost Montrezl Harrell, but they brought in Serge Ibaka. They re-signed Morris for way too much fucking money. Yep. And so they didn't do a lot. But, Serge Ibaka is something that is going to create problems for our front line. He's athletic. He's not as crazy athletic as he used to be, but he's somebody who does have the ability to put our guys in stressful situations on defense. And it's going to be interesting to see that coupled with Paul George. And you got to remember, the last time the Clippers played the Suns, Booker hit a huge shot, the shot in the bubble.
I remember that one.
I don't know if you.
I'm going to be that guy like, do you remember I think he hit a big shot against the Clippers before.
That was last year.
That's going to be the thing in the pregame is they're going to bring up I believe Booker hit a big shot against the Clippers and they'll show the replay. But we've seen that thousands of times and I love it, dude. So if it can happen again over Paul George, Paul George deserves it. He's going to get traded probably with that big contract. I'm just joking. I don't even know. But honestly, I think that the Suns are they're in the way of a lot of these teams on top of the West. And I think that you'll find out against the Clippers just how well they'll stack up against them. And we always talk about the front line rebounding against these big guys, the more athletic guys like Serge Ibaka, but team rebounding. That's what the Suns have been doing and they'll continue to do. I don't feel like they're scared or intimidated of these teams at all. I don't see it in them. Like before, of course I'd be worried, but this team is just different.
No, absolutely. This is a team full.
What up, fellas?
It's a bunch of fellas out there, man, and they're playing for each other, with each other. I do love the point on team rebounding. I think that that's even tonight against the Nuggets, it's highly effective. That when we do have smaller guys out there, they're a pain in the other team's ass. They're going up there and they're batting the ball around and creating mismatches and problems for them to where it annoys the other team. So it's going to be something that. Going against Serge Ibaka, Zubac, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, a good defensive team, in that aspect. It's really going to be interesting to see how this new version of the Suns that are now 13-1 in our last 14 games and 15 and 2 in our last 17 games, going all the way back to last year and last season. It's going to be really interesting to see how we match up against them. I know that last year, actually, that was one of the first games we went to, was when Ricky Rubio was out. It was like game 3 of the season, and we beat the shit out of him. So we'll be it'll be very interesting to see. I like what Bicentennial Kid in the chat said. Chris Paul, revenge game. Absolutely.
Yes.
Let's
you think the Suns will make a trade for Blake Griffin to bring him back just in time for this game?
Not a fucking chance, dude.
Revenge game? I'm just joking.
For the ultimate
on that.
Yeah, please don't disrupt this chemistry right now. Okay. Please don't disrupt this chemistry. So, is there anything else you have to share with the Jamster faithful before we get out of here on this high note and feeling good on January 1st, 2021, my friend?
Well, personally, there's like an itch, right? I'm just joking.
Oh.
Well,
yeah, no, there's a powder for that.
Yeah, so I was talking about Chris Paul MVP chances, but it's funny because they were 8-0 in the bubble, but a lot of those games they played against the second unit in the fourth. So it's like you bring in Chris Paul, he's just that missing piece to where he can finish these games. And I love to see it in this game because we know he can do it. And he's been giving it up to Booker. They're sharing the time, but he knows this is Booker's team, so he gave him the chances before. Booker was there tonight. Chris Paul came in, took care of business. Everyone gave it as much as they could because they know if we get this game, go 5-1, we get a day off tomorrow, which would be nice, right, before the Clippers. So I think they just put it all in tonight and came out on top. And I'm not used to this. It's been a while, so I'm adjusting. I'm a little hungover from last night, maybe. Maybe that's why I feel so depressed. Who knows? But I'm feeling great now, man. I feel on top of the world.
Oh, man. I'm sorry to hear that, man.
Right?
So, yeah, whoa. I mean, have a beer, man. Like, settle down. Yeah. Life is good right now, man. The Suns win. We beat the Nuggets. Really, again, I'll say it again, man. Quality W for the Suns. Can't be more excited for Planet Orange right now and the efforts that we're putting in. We got a tough road ahead of us. We get through a couple more of these games because you have the Raptors right after the Clippers, which I feel like is a team that's really not the Raptors that we're used to. And then we have an opportunity to run some off. So, I mean, this team could rival the best team in Suns history that started 11-1 in the 1980-1981 season. And 20 years later, in 2000/2001, that's when they started 5-1. That's the last time this team started 5-1. So it's a great time to be a member of Planet Orange. I appreciate everyone who decided to stop in on their New Year's night and hang out with us. Please remember to subscribe to the pod on YouTube and hit the thumbs up button. Subscribe to the pod on the Bright Side of the Sun podcast network, wherever you get your podcasts. And you can follow the show at Suns Jam on both Instagram and Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at Darth Voida. You can follow this guy on Twitter.
Let's see.
And as for everybody else, have a great night. Take care of each other. This beer's empty, so it's time for another one.
All right, everyone, stay home and love your family. Don't be so depressed.
Yeah, that's just a Matthew problem. Take care, everybody.